Good afternoon, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. Yes, second review today. Expect quite a few reviews this week. Not just because there's a lot of new stuff out, but a lot of cool stuff out, and some stuff that's supposed to be out last week has arrived, including this, which is the variant cover for Swamp Thing, which admittedly on the camera doesn't look as cool, but let's try to get a bit of extra light in there. There's a lot going on though, which is very, very awesome. I do like the variant covers done in this style. In fact, I've been looking forward to this one for a while, but instantly I'm let down. And straight away thinking, oh my gosh, that must be terrible. You've just got a brand new comic book, Shorty, and you don't like it. It's like, no, I do like it. But I was talking to one of my regulars and very good friends. We've been discussing some of the stuff happening with Batman and what have you. And apparently there's been a lot of stuff happening in Infinite Frontiers, which is actually having a knock-on thing for the actual comic books I'm reading. Now, I picked up Future State, Ramvi's Swamp Thing issues 1 and 2, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Very, very cool little idea. Maybe want to get it. Didn't bother with the Infinite Frontier thing because it just felt like it was this one-shot little thing with lots of little side stories in there. Didn't really make me care too much. Yeah, for DC, I do get a couple. I get Batman, Detective, Swamp Thing. But I've dropped a few others. So I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll survive without it. Turns out there's a major event that happens in it to do with not only Bane in the Batman universe, but also sets up Swamp Thing. Or at least I assume it does, because otherwise I have no clue what's actually going on in this. I'm going to see if I can find a spare copy of it kicking around so I can read it and catch up. Not specifically a review of the comic book, but kind of a review of DC practices there. If you're going to do a launch issue 1, do the launch issue 1. Don't expect people to have got this extra little thing, especially if they're only getting Swamp Thing. And having them pay, I think we charge £6.50 for it or something like that, for the few pages Swamp Thing's going to set it up. Yeah, cool. If you're getting like every single DC thing, awesome. You're going to get like loads of cool info and it'll all be in one place. It's nice and handy. But just, I don't like that. It's not a good way to do it. Sorry, DC, you suck. But Ram V, brilliant writer, thoroughly enjoyable comic book. Straight off the bat, I want to say I have something very special about the artwork. It is lo-fi and grungy, and they overdo the shading on it quite nicely. Just look at the, not quite splash page, but just look at the colour palette there and the dark and light that goes along with it. The page before, almost as good. Nice little grid panel there, something over the top, and nice use of the red palette. Very, very cool. And there's lots of use of greens and blacks throughout. And just, I'll show this again because I realised something I wanted to say, but forgot about. Look at the detail on the glove. Just isn't that spectacular? Like, not in any shape or form the most important thing that's going to happen in this comic book. But I love that attention to detail. Absolutely brilliant. Who was the artist this one? Perkins. You do a damn fine job. And that runs throughout. And this is a horror comic book. So you need to have pretty good artwork. You want to gross people out because it's pretty hard to scare people. Like, you can't just do jump scares. It's about horror comic books before. You used to do it in different ways. And what this does is basically rise and falls the tension level a little bit. Gives you hints about what's going on in the background. Throws in some really cool, like urban legend of some terrible creature in the desert. And it takes you to a point like, oh my God, what's going on? Then now drop to normality again. But then the rise and fall explains itself and becomes part of the story. Brilliant take on how to do horror in a comic book. At no point am I terrified about what's going on, but I'm intrigued, I'm disturbed, and I want to basically know what's going on. There's an excellent bit when you get a reveal of a bad guy. Well, I'll say bad guy. There's a lot of stuff going on here where we're not entirely sure. I mean, one thing about Swamp Thing is that a lot of people would see them as a villain because of what they do in disregard for humanity. But when we actually see this fella, look at the hands. He is actually carrying a hand each in his hands. Brilliant little extra level of gore and detail in there, which is just unnerving and unsettling. Read that comic book cover to cover. At no point does it explain why that person has a thing for hands. Doesn't come up once at all. Doesn't explain why he's using that particular thing, as if it's just a one-shot thing and he's using to give himself an advantage or something. Never comes up again. Just this weird, creepy, icky, gross point they put in there, and it works because it leaves you wondering what the hell's going on and what kind of mind this thing has, if that's the way it responds to things, and that's how it lives its life, or whatever it is that it does. All in all, absolutely brilliant. Writing-wise, it's absolutely solid. I think there's some depth of character which I haven't got down to yet, because it's a setup issue, which again feels weird because they did the whole Infinite Frontier thing, but then have to do a setup issue for people who never read Infinite Frontier. DC, you suck. But the actual writing you get in it, the dialogue's very cool. There's lots of box out narration, which moves the story along at just the right pace, and then there's hints of other stuff going on, which isn't like the guy holding the hands in his hands. There's other stuff going on there which never really gets properly explained. That might have nothing to do with the Infinite Frontier thing. It's just them foreshadowing something dark and brilliant to come. Genuinely cool. Very glad it's arrived. Week late, but worth the wait. Take it easy. Stay safe. Bye.